Good morning, beautiful people. I hope you are having a great day so far. Today's topic is nutrition, pre-workout, intra-workout, and post-workout. So what should you eat during and after your workouts? Now we'll go in order. With pre-workout nutrition, the first question is, should you have it? Yes. We have so much data at this point showing that it is beneficial to have food before your workout. It's going to be more beneficial if you have been fasted for 8 hours or more. So basically, just think about if you work out first thing in the morning, you should definitely have something before you work out. And even more, and then again, if your workouts are longer than 45 minutes. So most people are gonna work out for more than 45 minutes. I do. Mine are normally an hour to an hour and a half, but I like to take my time at the gym. It's my happy place. I go there to clear my head. So I spend a long time there. You don't have to spend that long anyways. I'm a yapper, man. I'm getting off topic. What should you eat? Well, carbs. Long story short, you should eat carbs before your workout. Carbs are your body's energy source. I always say this. Carbs are your body's energy source. Do not go to the gym with your tank on E. We need carbs. We use glycogen. That's how our body stores them, in your liver and in your muscles. Now, when you work out, you are not going to, for a long time, people thought that you needed carbs pre-workout and intra-workout because you depleted your glycogen stores within your muscles during resistance training. That is not true. You barely even touch them. But we know that, that the reason why it's beneficial to have carbs pre-workout is because your exercise volume is correlated with your blood sugar, your post-workout blood sugar. So having pre and intra-workout carbs allows you to fully saturate your liver with glycogen, which drips sugar, carbs, into, because carbs are just sugar. Carbs and sugar, think about them as the same thing. Drips them into your bloodstream. You got more for afterwards, and there's a strong correlation there. That's essentially the name of the game. So your pre-workout meal should be carb heavy. And depending on how close you're eating it to your meal, how close you're eating to your workout, that's going to change the type of carbs. So you have simple carbs, you have complex carbs. Really, it just depends on the amount of fiber in there, because fiber is going to slow down your digestion. So something that is heavier, that has more fiber, so think oats or potatoes or fruits, things like that are going to take longer to digest. So you're gonna wanna space those out. And so I would say wait around an hour if you're gonna have something like oats. And especially if you're gonna have oats, you're gonna put your protein powder in there and your frozen berries. That was literally my pre-workout meal that's a great pre-workout meal, by the way. That was my pre-workout meal for 3 years, honestly. And then I just got so tired of oats because I just had them all the time. Cream of rice digests like that. So you can have cream of rice. If you're just having cream of rice and you're not having any protein or anything with it, you can have that 20 to 30 minutes before your workout, to be 100% honest. Digestion's gonna be slightly varied depending on the person and depending on if you're taking anything special. If you're on a GLP, that is going to slow down your digestion, so that's something that you should take into account now that everyone's Retta maxing. But even for people that are actually prescribed GLPs, that's something that you should take into account. So your pre-workout meal, make it carb heavy. You don't need to have protein. Muscle protein synthesis actually is blunted during resistance training. We see a drop. So you really don't need to have protein pre-workout. It can't hurt, right? It's just gonna, again, slow down digestion. Carbs digest the fastest. So ideally, you're gonna have some form of fructose and glucose. So fructose is in fruit, glucose is just in basically everything else. You can throw in sucrose too if you wanna be pedantic about it. But fructose, and the reason why you wanna have fructose and glucose is because they have different metabolic pathways of how they're digested. So you can think of fructose as more of a longer lasting one. Glucose is gonna get into the bloodstream pretty quick. So I would say for the most part, wait to an hour and a half after your pre-workout meal. If you don't have that kind of time, you can just have something simple, something quick. So that's, if you're having something, I guess the hour to hour and a half is if you're having really any other type, any normal carbs, potatoes, rice, oats, things like that. But if you bread, and because you need the at the end of the day, we just want it to be digested. That's the goal, is we want it to be digested so that we can actually use it. And that's, too many people will just slam a bowl of oats and then with peanut butter and protein, and so you got fat that's slowing the digestion, you got fiber in there and protein, and all of this is slowing down digestion. They'll slam that bowl of oats and go to the gym 20 minutes later. That is not fueling your workout, buddy, I promise you that. So just keep that in mind. Keep it in mind. You want it to be fully digested. Should be carb heavy, maybe protein if you want, and keep the fats and the fiber low for digestive purposes. Fuck. If you have fat and fiber, just know it's going to slow it down. It's not going to be harmful. It's just going to slow down the digestion. Now, intra workout. Do you need it? Maybe. It's hard to tell, right? So we have carb mouth rinsing studies where they don't even eat the carbs. They literally just rinse their mouths with it. And it's not even, some people will say, oh, well, it's just the sweetness that your mouth detects. No. They have dextro powder, which is unflavored, and they will just rinse their mouths with it, spit it out, and it'll boost performance. It's crazy. Your brain literally just can detect carbs. That's how beneficial they are to training. And we have different mechanisms for why we think this happens. We're not 100% sure. But for the most part, I would say yes, intra-workout carbs are probably beneficial. Anecdotally, I do notice when I have them versus when I don't. And obviously anecdotes are not scientific evidence, but just take that with a grain of salt. That's my thoughts on it. And we do have a really good meta-analysis, acute carb loading. So this is direct pre and intra workout, and we do have another one that's just specifically on mouth rinsing, and they both found beneficial effects from carbs, intra workout and mouth rinsing. So I would say yes, have some intra workout carbs. And do you need anything else? Again, it's the same thing of, it's going to be more beneficial if you haven't eaten in over 8 hours, or if your workout is longer than 45 minutes. Definitely if it's both. And if you want to really maximize, just have some carbs intra-workout. Don't be the guy that's housing gummy bears during your workout. You want it to be liquid, it's going to digest faster. Obviously, you could be just the guy that's eating gummy bears during their workout, but it's probably going to be better to have a drink just so that it can go, because again, we're trying to fuel the workout and keep our blood sugar high. That's the end goal. Keep the liver saturated, keep the blood sugar high. And drinking your carbs is gonna be the best way. Use clostridextrin. You could go the OG way with some OJ and honey. And those are and you could even throw in electrolytes. Electrolytes are probably a good idea too, because calcium, and you need calcium, you need electrolytes to contract your muscles. So having some electrolytes intra-workout, maybe having them pre and intra, having electrolytes, and if you really want to maximize everything, having electrolytes pre and intra-workout is probably a good idea. And that's pretty much it for intra. Don't stress about it. If you're cutting, I would say it's tough, right? Because if you're cutting, you want to be maximizing your performance in the gym, because that's the main thing that's going to help you retain and grow muscle. But at the same time, if you really struggle with staying full, having 100 to 150 calories that you're just using, that's just liquid in the gym, that you could be swapping for potatoes or something, might not be the best idea. So it kind of just depends on you as a person, right? You might drop your intra-workout carbs if you just are struggling on the diet, but I would say most likely when you're in a deficit, that's probably when it's the most important to have it, because that's when that's when gym performance is going to be dropping, because you're tired, you're in a deficit, you're depleted, and your muscles already don't have glycogen in them because you are depleted. Anyways, that's intra-workout. It's not too complicated. Drink some fucking dextrose, drink some orange juice, put some honey in there maybe. I don't know. Whatever you want to do. Now, post-workout, anabolic window. You need to be slamming a protein shake directly after your workout. As soon as you finish, right after your last rep, you need to start slamming your protein shake. No. Anabolic window has been debunked for a long time. I would just try to make sure that your post-workout meal and your pre-workout meal are not farther than 5 hours apart. But even if they are, it's not the end of the world, right? As long as you're getting your daily protein intake in, you're gonna be fine. That's what we've seen, right? Is total daily protein intake, that bakes the cake. And then the timing is just the icing. Because we have some studies showing that the timing matters and it has an effect. And it's a tiny one at that. It's a tiny effect. So if you're really, again, trying to maximize, then it's probably a good idea to have protein every roughly 4 hours. But don't stress about having it directly after your workout. Again, just try to keep it within that 4 to 5 hour range after your pre-workout meal. If you haven't had any protein in your pre-workout meal, I would say have it sooner rather than later after your workout. And you also have, some people talk about carbs because you want to raise your insulin, because insulin is what drives. Insulin basically flicks on mTOR. So mTOR, you can think of it as the switch for muscle building, like the light switch, and insulin turns it on. Insulin flicks the switch, and then mTOR kicks on, and then that kicks on your muscle protein synthesis, which is basically the muscle building process. And you're in a very insulin sensitive state. What the hell was that? After you work out. So you can have carbs. Having carbs in your post-workout meal is probably a good idea. You don't need to stress about it again. It's just have some post-workout nutrition is honestly the least important of the three, in my opinion. You just need to eat something. And if you're really worried about maximizing, you'd probably want to keep the fats relatively low, just so that you can maximize so you can digest the protein faster and the carbs faster. So you want to space your fat and your fiber away from your workout, ideally, right? This is, again, getting very pedantic. This whole video is very pedantic, to be honest. You can make great gains not giving a shit about your pre, intra, and post-workout nutrition. If you each get your daily protein intake in, you'll still make great gains. Even if you don't, this is all just super pedantic, and the added benefits that you'll get from these that we see are very small. So they probably are there. They probably exist. I'm not gonna blow smoke up your ass and say it doesn't matter at all. But it's not gonna be huge. It's not gonna be make or breaking your gains. If you're not making progress, this is not the place to check. This is not the thing that you'll be like, oh my God, it's because my pre-workout meal is not very good. No, probably it's your training. At the end of the day, your training is what builds muscle. That's what's gonna move the needle. You can have piss poor nutrition and amazing. For a long time, people, including myself, said, oh, it's 80% nutrition and then 10% sleep and 10% training. No, it's your training. The more data that comes out, literally people with even the most recent protein meta-analysis in a deficit showed that your training mattered more. Well, study design, which you can equate to your training, mattered more than protein intake when we were looking at explaining the variance and losses of lean mass, losses or retaining lean fat-free mass during a deficit. So it really is going to come down to your training. And you really shouldn't stress too much about all these things. If you really want, we really should just dumb it down. Have some carbs pre-workout. You don't need to load them. I didn't even talk about the amount that you should have. I said you shouldn't have too much. 0.4 grams per kilogram of body weight is roughly the dose where you start to see benefits. So that's not very much. You can have more than that. I would recommend having more than that. The line was on the graph, it was going up, but very slowly. So, and that was up to 2.5. So having a shit ton of carbs is probably not going to be beneficial. Oh, I see what's happening. Having a shit ton of carbs is not going to benefit you, but having no carbs is going to be detrimental. So have some carbs pre-workout. Don't stress about getting in 1,000,000 grams of them. Just 0.4 grams per kilogram is probably the minimum that I would say. And then aside from that, try to keep the fats and the fibers low if you are planning on training soon. And intra-workout, have some carbs, maybe some electrolytes, and post-workout, have some protein. Don't stress about the timing too much. Just try to keep it within 5 hours. That's really all I've got for you. I do just want to say, don't overcomplicate this, right? That's all you need. Just think carbs, protein. Maybe throw some extra carbs in with your post-workout if you're really trying to optimize the insulin response and the muscle building response, but it's probably not going to move the needle too much. Hope y'all learned something. Peace out. Love you.